Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Could I ask you please to be seated? My name is Alex Wildman and I'm your MC tonight. So I should say namaste and good evening and welcome to this 30th annual Australia-India Address, celebrating 30 years of bilateral trade and investment opportunities for businesses in both nations. Before we start, I'd like to officially welcome the Premier of New South Wales, Michael Baird, the Chair of the... Thank you for coming. The Chair of AIBC, Shiba Nandhyala, the Vice President of AIBC, Samia Arora, Mr. Tulsi Tanti, the Chairman and Managing Director of Suzlon Limited. Thank you. The CEO of Adventist Healthcare Limited, Phil Curry. The General Manager of Retail Banking Services at the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, Ed Box. And last but not least, well, among all of you else here, is Michael Kasperwitz, the former Australian international cricketer and MD of Venture India. Thank you, Raja Venkaswar, for asking me to MC this evening. And thank you, everybody, for attending this event. 8 years ago, I was lucky enough to have a whirlwind 3-day visit to Delhi after 3 weeks of trekking in Nepal. So Delhi was there. I was going for a rest. I was hosted in India by my expat friends who were there for a few years, and they gave me a unique insight to life in Delhi, which has inspired me to see more of this amazing country in the future. Those 3 days were packed with so many wonderful experiences. I remember eating giant prawns at an amazing restaurant with my bare hands. I'd never done that before. I think it was called the Bakara. I think I've asked some people about that, and it was fantastic. The beautiful, the guard of honour at the front door as you went into that restaurant. But these prawns, I'd never seen anything the size of them. Also riding on a rickshaw through the spice market, dodging cows walking in the middle of the road was an amazing sight. Buying beautiful saris, like the one I'm wearing. I thought I'd put on a bit of an Indian influence on my attire. Sipping iced tea while having a silk dress made in only a matter of days. These are all the wonderful things I experienced in Delhi. Taking a yoga class. And the last but not least was riding an elephant next to an expressway on the way to catch my flight at the airport. What else would you do in Delhi but ride an elephant beside an expressway? It was fantastic. This insight, albeit short, into Indian culture inspired me to develop my own business in the travel industry and to offer personalised experiences to international guests while visiting Sydney. So that's my next career. I've travelled quite extensively, both personally and professionally, through my career as a television presenter while hosting various documentaries around the world. And I have to say that India is one of the most colourful and diverse nations that I've ever had the opportunity to visit. I'm therefore thrilled to be here to MC the 30th Annual Australia-India Business Council Address. So it's almost time to hear from our first speakers, but before we do, I'd like to point out that we have some fantastic silent auction items around the room. Just to the side, you can go and put down your bid, such as an artwork from Nanda Hobbs, tickets to a lunch and dinner cruise on the harbour, and a gift hamper donated by ABS Group. So make sure that you step away from your table and write down your bid for those silent auction items that we'll be drawing at about 9:15. We also have some lucky door prizes, some photography sessions with Verve Portraits, Australia's largest portrait photography company. And we have raffle tickets. Now, these raffle tickets are on offer. We have some flyers on your table. The prize that we'll be giving out for the raffle tickets is an autographed cricket bat by the great fast bowler Mitchell Johnson. So have a look for those flyers on your table to be in the winning, and you can win that wonderful prize donated by the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. And I'll be reminding you about these prizes throughout the evening. It's now time to hear a conversation between two budding sportsmen, I hear. Well, first needs no introduction, Michael Kaspowitz, but he's going to be talking to Samir Aurora, who is a fitness freak in his bio. Samir is the National Australian Manager for Aptara, the world's leading content management company. He has worked as an international growth specialist for the India market at the New South Wales Business Chamber. Here he assisted several Australian organisations to enter the Indian market successfully. Samir has been involved for many years with the AIBC, managing the responsibility for all New South Wales events, and is currently the Vice President. Samir has an MBA in International Marketing and is known, as I said, as a fitness freak. So he'll have fun talking to his buddy, Michael Kaspowitz, who is a former Australian international cricketer and currently a director of the Board of Cricket Australia. Prior to that position, Michael was the president of the Australian Cricketers Association. He's also founder and managing director of a consultancy firm, Venture India, facilitating trade and business opportunities between India and Australia. Michael is currently a board member of the Australia-Indian Council, and through Michael's elite sport and business backgrounds, he's a specialist in clearly and insightfully presenting the invaluable parallels between business and elite sport. Could I please welcome Michael and Samir up to the stage?
Ladies and gentlemen, there is a slight change. If I can please request you all to stand up for the Indian and Australian national anthems, and then we'll continue with the rest of the program. Thank you.
Sea.
Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. Michael, I'm honestly very happy that I insisted on sitting and talking to you. Otherwise, I would have had a sore neck by the end of it. Sitting up. Michael, I was listening to your introduction, which Alex kindly gave, and one of the points that came to me was you have an MBA degree as well, international cricket and MBA. That's a very, very rare combination that you get to hear. People usually take an MBA degree, find a management job, and settle in. Well, at least that's what I try to do. So, which of the two was an accident here, cricket or MBA?
No, I got to say, and look, first of all, I got to say thank you so much to be invited down here to the New South Wales Australian India Business Council dinner to celebrate Australia and India relationship is very special for me for a number of reasons. One, because I did play cricket for Australia and spent 19 years playing cricket, or 10 years in the Australian cricket team, but 19 years playing cricket and living my dream. Very fortunate in that example. What I guess my love of India started in, I talk about my 17-year love affair with India. I've been playing cricket in India as the Australian cricket team, Sam, and it was just an extraordinary experience. The second reason why I'm actually very fortunate to be here is I'm from Queensland. And so for a Queenslander to be asked to come down here and have a conversation is kind of extraordinary. Sorry, is this microphone working? It is. Okay. I got to say, yeah, and there is. And actually, in all honesty, I love coming down to New South Wales. I love coming to Sydney. And I love the fact that when you do an event, you do it in style, as Barry pointed out to me. That but the scale of things is so much better from what I find and the way that things often are presented up in Queensland.
Sure. Next time, can you please bring the weather along?
Well, we've got heat up there and it doesn't rain much, and you only need one layer of clothing. So winter's actually quite pleasant up in Queensland.
No, that's great. So 8 years now that you've been retired from all forms of cricket, is that right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, so what aspect of the game do you miss the most?
Look, keeping the cricket content, I realise there's some people interested in cricket, but using the cricket content here, trying to thin that out, because I like to think that my involvement with India is a lot deeper than just cricket. It starts the conversation, but there's a whole lot more in our relationship that I really want to share with everyone tonight, and certainly want to leave it with you as a takeaway. But you're right, as when you live your dream, when you're in a dressing room with mates, and you're in a successful Australian cricket team and spending 10 years in or out of that side, not being the first picked, but being the person that was able to continually come back in, reinvent themselves, it was something that for me was very important. The thing I miss most is competing in the field of cricket, because you were good, had skills, and wanting to compete. Number two is your mates. You miss hanging around with your mates and enjoying that environment, which is why, Samir, I know that I'm the only Australian Test cricketer to ever have gone away and done an MBA at the University of Queensland. So I'm possibly the only Australian fast bowler with a tertiary education, mind you. However, don't tell Stuart Clark, I know he does a bit of law. But what I did understand when I did play cricket, and the experience of playing cricket in India particularly for me back in 1998, was sitting in a dressing room and having success in the Australian team, that was seriously the most challenging environment I'd ever played cricket. 44 degrees of heat on these flat wickets in India. And they didn't have a living organism in them, let alone a blade of grass. And then as a fast bowler, we like grass on our wickets. But it was the most challenging thing, but the most rewarding from a personal point of view, because there's team moments you remember, which is great. But from a personal point of view, going to India and under the most challenging situations, coming out and having success in a dirty big man of the match trophy in Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bangalore, but actually the experience to understand how India works.
Great.
Very differently, and I think that's the space. When everyone else in that dressing room verbalised and said, I don't want to come back here, I thought, I'm not the first guy picked, but you know what? If you guys hate it, I'm going to love it. And that's exactly what I've been doing for ever since I finished playing cricket. I realised that the room's a bit tough here because we're sitting low and the people out the back here have no idea what we're talking about.
Can everyone hear us? Can you please raise your hands if you can hear us towards the end? Perfect.
The dynamics are awesome. A bit like traffic in Mumbai, actually. The design here. I actually apologise if it offends anyone, but I think what you'll find, and one of the lessons I've always found in India, is that whilst there might not be the process, the procedure, the regulations, all these type things, it works.
It all comes in together.
That's right. So a bit like this room tonight, being long and flat,
all come together.
tables out there, they have no idea what we're talking about here. These ones out there. This bloke is pointing to it, but at least give them a camera or something like that. But because I'll come into the really gritty stories, and if I drop an F-bomb in here, I'll get everyone's attention. I realise that.
Well, probably to get the attention, what we'll do is we'll ask you a question about cricket, because I'm sure we have got a lot of fans sitting here.
Yep.
Now, in your cricketing career, you would have bowled to the top batsmen in the world. So if I was to ask you, pick 2 batsmen that you found to be the most challenging ones,
Yep.
where you really had to step back and think about your next ball, which 2 batsmen would they be and why?
Because I played against Tendulkar and Lakshman in India. So that's the answer. It's a bit of a popular vote, I reckon, amongst a few tables here. So yeah, and seriously, because you want to challenge yourself against the best opposition in the best competition, and that's in India. That was where it was.
Great. I'm sure the Indian fans here would be happy to hear that. Now, I have a confession to make. Over the last 1 week, I've been pretty much stalking your social media. And on your LinkedIn, you have mentioned that you're very passionate about the India-Australia trade relationship.
Yep.
You have traveled the world. So why India, Michael?
Can I just say, can I just get everyone's attention down the back there? Please, just real quickly. I realise the dynamics aren't great, and I made reference to that before. But what I want to do is actually mention a couple of takeaways. Everyone's here tonight because they're interested. They're either been involved with India, there's some sort of connection, but more importantly, there's an interest. And in answer to your questions to me, I think that's the beauty of India. For me personally, my journey has been about helping people in their journey, understanding how India works, but the opportunity with India. When I say opportunity, that the biggest lesson I learned from playing first-class cricket or test cricket, or if you like, living my dream playing test cricket for Australia, was how perception works. Because sports people, just like politicians, Mike, Premier, sorry, we did play a game of cricket together, actually, at Manly Oval many years ago. So we'll keep the nicknames basis thing. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, Betty. Okay, good. But one of the things that sportsmen and politicians understand more than anyone else in society is how perception works. Because everyone bases their opinion on you. Queensland, New South Wales, I love you, I hate you. Politics, Labor, left, right, whatever. And so we deal with our life as politicians and sports people, as I said, understanding how perception works, and more importantly, understanding accurately how to not change perception, but certainly just to how you can influence perception. And it's the only way to do this is through behaviour, by going and doing something. So coming along tonight, I'm sure everyone thought, oh great, we've got a Queensland cricketer, a fast bowler, coming up here talking about cricket. Awesome, that's great, fantastic. I get nothing out of this. But the one thing I want to leave with people here tonight is that you've got to change through behaviour, going and doing something different. Hence the reason why I was the only Australian cricketer ever to do an MBA. So just to separate yourself from the crowd. And this is particularly where, I'm sorry, Samir, I'm going hard here. because I want to leave people with a definite message about tonight, because the Australia-India relationship suffers the same perceptions. Because you think about, many years ago, there was down in Melbourne, there's a couple of incidents with some students, and there was media in India went nuts about Australia. We're racist, we're violent, it's unsafe, it's all these things.
No, I
That's
remember
exactly how it works. So then all of a sudden, I'm going hard here, as I said. What we found was that all of a sudden the Australians' view or perception of India, it's dirty, dusty, dodgy food, I'm not sure I'm just not sure. But until you go and see it, until you put yourself in a position through that behaviour of getting into that environment, seeing it for yourself, you're not going to change the perception of your view. You'll influence it. And so I work very hard at trying to help people, if you like, correct perception around this relationship with Australia and India. And like I said previously, cricket, whilst it's great in this relationship, and Patrick Suckling, who was a former High Commissioner for Australia in India, had actually said to me, he said, we need to use cricket more in our relationship. We have to use cricket in this relationship. And I'd always stepped away from it. I said, why is that, Patrick? And he said, because every other High Commissioner here in Delhi hates the fact that we've got something with India. And they're jealous because they actually don't play cricket. They have no idea what cricket is. So whilst it starts a conversation, that is the opportunity for us to separate ourselves out from the crowd and find a way that we can not just go in there and try and sell stuff and expertise, but go in there and sell, if you like, start the relationship, understand India, because only after a period of time, and we all know how relationships work, someone will trust you enough to share with you what they need. And then and only then do you have the right and the opportunity to offer a solution. And I do find, as I said, I'll go hard, that in Australia we are far too arrogant the way that we deal with India. We think of our importance in the Asian whole region because we feel like we can go in there and tell everyone else, go into their home and tell them that our home's awesome and we can come and fix yours without spending a skerrick of time in a relationship to offer a solution.
Thank you. You've already answered my next question. Thank you.
Back to Sachin Tendulkar. Yeah,
Yes.
sorry. No.
Now, you've also been nominated as the interim CEO of Queensland, Australia. And
Queensland
you're
Cricket.
also
Queensland Cricket.
Queensland Cricket, sorry. And you're also on the board of Cricket Australia.
Yes.
So would you please like to talk a little bit about your role with those two organizations?
Yeah, sure. I'm the only fast bowler ever to be asked onto the board of Cricket Australia as well. So I love being part of every minority group out there. and fast bowlers, I should point out, are definitely a minority group. Because in a cricket team, you've got 11 players, you have 6 batsmen generally, a wicketkeeper, a spinner, a handy spinner, and 3 fast bowlers. So like every minority group, we get persecuted as fast bowlers. And so I understand how this works. So I was asked to be on the board of Cricket Australia, if you like, to go on there while there was a corporate governance review of Australian cricket. 106-year federated model. Each state has 2, 3, 1 board members, all being chairman, all part of Cricket Australia, making decisions for the good of Australian cricket, which doesn't particularly work well. And so now that Cricket Australia is a $380 million a year business in revenue, the game has changed. And so I had the opportunity I was asked to go on the board to pretty much vote myself off this board along with everyone else. And I do see Harry Haranath here as well, which was on the board. And so I'm sorry to vote you off, Harry, but I did vote myself off at the time of Cricket Australia. But looking at ways that we can do things, differently, better, and so I've always looked at trying to do that. Having spent 4 years on the board of Cricket Australia, setting the strategy of Australian cricket, I looked at that and having been a significant contributor to that, Queensland Cricket CEO had left at the time, and I'm 44 years old, and I thought, here's an opportunity to test myself out and my skills, lessons, and the learnings from 19 years in professional sport and transfer those into a corporate environment. So hence the reason why I took the opportunity as the interim CEO of Queensland Cricket to give that a go, not just setting strategy, but a chance to implement.
Right. Now, I can see Alex showing me her eyes, so that means my time is up.
Good.
But I'm not going to leave the stage, and I have the mic with me, so you can't push me. I have one last question, and which is
Sure.
my favorite one. Has to be about cricket. Out of all the special deliveries that you would have bowled in your career, would you be able to pick one of them?
I think your first wicket in Test cricket is a moment, absolutely. But having spent and invested so much time in India and passionate about India, in the relationship with India, everything revolves around India for me with cricket. As I mentioned, it was the most challenging time. The best lessons I learned out of the game to transfer into life after, of course. But Sachin Tendulkar was it. And it was actually in Bangalore in 1998, having successfully lost 8.5 kilos of body weight in 3 weeks, playing in this heat conditions, the most challenging thing I ever did. But it was kind of classic. And the answer to your question is Sachin Tendulkar, because I learned to reverse swing the ball. He chipped it back. We got him out. Low down. It's on Google. Have a look at it sometime. I didn't post it, mind you, but one hand caught and bowled. We got him. But really quick sideline of that story, and I'll end on this with a cricket funny story around India, because before that, as I said, I lost all this weight. We were playing all these games, and India had won the first 2 Test matches. We played our last Test match in Bangalore, which is elevated. It's a lot more comfortable. But we're training, and all of a sudden, across the oval, the day before the game, it was like an oasis. Dennis Lillee is walking around the boundary. Dennis Lillee, for those that don't know, he was the Australian fast bowling icon. As a young player growing up, he was he was the idol, the mentor. I wanted to be Dennis Lillee. And here he was walking around, the greatest fast bowling resource of all time, walking around the oval. And he was going to be at training. And so I thought the opportunity was there to, like I said, oasis. It didn't seem real, but it was him. And so I went up to Dennis and I said, "Oh, fabulous, Dennis. Look, how are you?" He said, "Oh, great. How hot is it?" I said, "Yep, I've lost 8.5 kilos of body weight." "How flat are the wickets?" "Yep, we've lost the first 2 Test matches." Then I said to him, I saw the opportunity. "Dennis, you've been watching since Sachin Tendulkar. In your experience as the greatest fast bowling bowler of all time, what have you noticed with his technique, the way he plays? Is there something you can give me that you think's going to help us for this last game?" And Dennis sort of looked at me. He looked skyward. He had a bit of a rough sort of chin at the time. He went, "No, mate, just make sure you walk off with pride." So we walked off with pride, took the wicket, and thanks very much, Dennis. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your
No
evening.
problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Before you leave the stage, though, I've heard that cricketers are fantastic Bollywood dancers. Can you show us a little bit of a Bollywood move?
Really? I should have actually pointed out too that having done the MBA, the first question I get, actually 3 questions I get, whenever I'm sort of in normal events like this. Number 1, it was 2005 Ashes, did you hit it? For the cricketers out there. Number 2 is what are you doing now? And number 3 is what's Shane Warne really like? This is not a sporting function, but one of the things that I did when I took perception was actually going and doing the MBA. So in the answer, what are you doing? Are you playing? Are you so you say, no, I did an MBA, I'm doing business. So I don't coach, commentate, and I've just added to the suite, I don't do Bollywood movies. Because I like my mates in cricket. Anyway, but one of the things that, and I know you've been set up for this, but I better show everyone, I'll share it tonight, and maybe Brett Lee needs to know how this works. But as far as dancing in Bollywood, in India, if anyone gets invited to an Indian wedding, where there's 3,000-4,000 people over a week or however long it is, you can be a star, an absolute star, in 3 simple moves. All you need to know is when you're up on stage, or you're on stage to dance for, it's so easy. You have to pat the dog, you put out the cigarette, and you change the light bulb. So, 3 easy. You will be a star. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I always wanted to know how to do that Bollywood
Thank you.
dancing.
Thanks, mate.
Have to
Easy.
practice now.
Yeah.
Our next speaker,
Thanks.
I'm going to describe him first and then I'll ask him to come to the stage. Raja is a well-known global fintech leader focusing on investments and mentorships in early-stage ventures around social, mobile, analytics and cloud. He's had a diverse career, having worked with leading financial service institutions, global consulting firms, service providers, and as the founder CTO of successful startup firms. Raja has been active in the NGO circuit. He's been responsible for building and managing schools for tsunami-affected southern India and raising considerable funds to enact construction and sustainable operations. Raja was awarded the GE Rotary Peace Prize and recognised as a Paul Harris Fellow for his efforts. Raja has been closely associated with the AIBC for several years and before being elected president, chaired the ICT chapter in New South Wales for 2 years. Would you please welcome our host, the president of the AIBC, Raja Venkateswar.
Thank you, Alex. I can't dance. I can't do even those 3 simple steps Michael taught all of us. God created me with 2 left feet. And as one of my other friends told me, I can only dance to my wife's tunes. It's a long list of people I need to recognize, but before I start recognizing the people and start my monologue, I want to ensure that the doors are locked because you guys can't go in anywhere till I finish my speech. The Honorable Mike Baird, Premier NSW, Mr. Tulsi Tanti, CMD of Sislon, Dr. Bahare from the CGI office in Sydney, Honorable Barry O'Farrell, former Premier NSW, Honorable Andrew Stoner, Honorable Jody Mackay, MP, Honorable Ernst Wong, MLC, Councillor Raj Datta, Councillor Gurdeep Singh, Dr. Harinath, Mr. Nihal Gupta, Rhonda Piggott, thank you, DFAT, Elena Kirilova from Austrade, Shiba, of course, our AIBC National Chair, past chairs, Neville, Roach, and Dipen Rugani. Dipen, you need to shave. AIBC ACT President Deepak Rajgupta, thank you for making the time to come here, Deepak. Mr. Ed Box from CBA, and my good friend Gunjan Pagare from CBA too. Mr. Philip Curry, CEO Adventist Healthcare. Barbara Ward, the lovely lady who was so helpful to us from Adventist Healthcare too. James Wallace, do I see you around somewhere? Oh, there you are. James, we are doing India Next. James is the founder, CEO of Life Challenge. It's an incredible TV show, and we are doing India Next with him. Dr. Deborah Bunker, my teacher, philosopher, and guide. Hopefully, I do get my PhD, till I go up there. And of course, Michael Kasprowitz. He has so many strings to his bow. He even dances well. I hope the next few minutes of my monologue will keep you on the edge of your seats. And that's because it's hopefully it'll be interesting and not because you're finding the nerve to get up and walk away. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure I missed a few very distinguished people in this room. If I have, I do apologize. I can just put it down to old age, bad eyesight, and forgetfulness. Take your pick. I came to Sydney almost exactly a decade ago. I came here as an expat on a 457 visa. You know, when I came here, I told my then CEO of the firm I was working for, I'm off for a couple of years. I'll be back shortly. It's a decade now. I came to Sydney thinking 2 years later I'm back. And when I came to this great country, you know, the country with an incredible diversity, the land of opportunity, the land of innovation, full of right thinking, right acting people. The country that gave us Wi-Fi, through which I think a couple of you are actually streaming this event live on Facebook. Because I was just tagged on one of them. And I think that pace of innovation, I don't think is slowing at all. I was just reading about these two unique kids in Brisbane, again Queensland, my friend, who are doing some incredible work around cosmetics. They are taking on the world, two unique kids, brilliant. Well, it's 2 years has become 10 years, and I have to head back. I think it's a similar story to many of us here in this room. Many of us here came from a land of dreams and romance, of fabulous wealth and fabulous poverty, of splendor and rags, of palaces and hovels, the country of 100 nations and 100 tongues, 1,000 religions and 2 million gods, cradle of the human race, birthplace of human speech, mother of history, grandmother of legend, great-grandmother of tradition. I didn't write it. Okay? I lack the literary nous to write something so erudite. I'm illiterate after all. But it was written by Mark Twain in 1887. And I'm just thinking how relevant it is even today. This is about 10, 12 years back. I was flying back from the States. I used to work in New York in those days. I was flying back with one of my old friends. And he told me on the flight to Delhi that, you know, it's like sleeping in black and white. And when you land in Delhi, it is like you're suddenly awake in color. You know? But then my friend Alan Hubbard, he's from Boston, a city of black and whites, especially in winters, not Sydney. We have Sydney. I don't think you friends from Queensland have Sydney. You're only Bris Vegas. Doesn't count. And the country under discussion is transforming. I don't know how many of you have ever seen an elephant wake up. Alex rode an elephant. I rode one when I was a boy. But I don't know how many of you have seen an elephant wake up. It's interesting, actually. If you haven't seen it, watch on YouTube. You know, it kind of sleeps on its sides. It takes enormous leverage, uses its hind legs to slowly get up. It takes leverage, takes effort, it takes time. And India, I think, is in a very similar position. It's an elephant waking up as we speak. It just got its leverage from a very charismatic prime minister. And it seems ready to commence on a march that brooks no nonsense at all. It's a nation of 1.2 odd billion people. It's a vibrant democracy. It is the world's third largest economy by purchasing power parity, and it is now threatening to grow at unheard of rates. Depending upon whom you speak to, it grew between 7.4 and 7.8% last year. We had a great event on GST, and Dennis is here from the team which you know, did the great presentation. And GST will add, give or take, 80, 90 basis points to it at the very minimum. A good monsoon typically adds, again, between 90 to 100 basis points to the economy growth. I'll leave you, friends, with the maths. And I think it's essential that we, in this land of innovation, wake up and understand and take advantage of this huge opportunity in front of us, like we so spectacularly did when the dragon woke up and commenced on its journey of transformation. But I think, you know, it'll be fallacy to believe that the growth will be of similar dimensions. I think the Indian growth will be built on internal consumption, which, by the way, grew about a fifth in the last 15 months. I think it'll be built on small, medium-sized engineering institutions as opposed to large steel plants. You know, India has got a tenth of the steel productions of China. And do we really need more steel plants? Not sure. I think thirdly, it'll be built on services. It will be built on a knowledge-led, technology-led economy. And thus, our challenge in Australia to build and leverage this growth would be very different. The approach needs to be beyond just resources. And especially at a time when you actually see the world's global trade decreasing. The Baltic Dry Index is at 30-year-old low levels. The last time I saw Baltic Dry indices at those rates, I was wearing half pants to school. And it's a long, long time back. I'm an old man now. Last year at AIA, I dwelt at length on some of the opportunities in front of us to exponentially increase cross-border trade. While we have seen an increase, I think 3.x% isn't much to write home about. And much water has flown under the bridge in the last 12 months. The world's focus has been on Brexit and its impact on macroeconomy. And in fact, in India Watch, you'll find one of my articles on it. And thankfully, this is a business delegation discussion, and we're talking Brexit, not Brangelina. Okay. However, I think the bigger worry for me, at least, is the state of the EU and the Chinese debt. We know the Italian banks are reasonably insolvent. And mind you, Italy never had a housing price boom. Deutsche Bank is sitting on a derivative asset base that is give or take 14 times the German economy. We all know what happened when we saw similar multiples about a decade back in a different country. China sits on debt multiples roughly similar to what we saw in Japan 2.5 decades ago. Again, we know what's happening in Japan for the last 2.5 decades. And icing on the cake, America goes to election. Fun and games. Well, there are a lot of dark clouds in the horizon, but I think the business landscape, as usual, is full of opportunities. If you can take risks, if you understand how to make a play, create value, drive value, there are significant number of opportunities in today's market. And I think the global macroeconomic positions calls for India to grow exponentially. It's the world's largest demographic dividend country, with give or take between 800 to 850 million people of workable age. So what does it mean? I think I see an influx of FDI into India. India has already overtaken China and US as the largest FDI destination, especially if the government's focus on reform, transform, perform, Mr. Modi's three-point agenda. If it continues, it'd be fantastic. What happens then? Usually this means that the rupee strengthens, and which means that we all get better returns on dollar-denominated asset classes. And I think Australia, as a close demographic neighbor, separated only by the Indian Ocean, is geographically ideally placed to take enormous advantage of this. A case to point is actually LNG. It's a great example. Today, give or take 3/4 to 4/5 of India's LNG requirements are met by Qatar or countries in the Middle East. When the Australian investments in the basins start yielding results, Australia will overtake Qatar. And this can actually happen in the next 3 to 4 years. This could be a truly transformational opportunity for us. And I think that hopefully will start doubling trade in every 3 or 4 years between India and Australia. And I think in that, NSW will play a very key role with 1/3 of the Australian GDP and the hub of financial services firms. This has to play a key role. But for me, more importantly, Sydney is a beautiful city. I would live in Brisbane. But then, as Michael was saying very, very clearly, we all need to change, and we all need to think differently. As an old trader, think of this. The share price of one of Australia's biggest stocks, IAG, actually increased significantly on the day they announced they are moving out of Asia and China, parts of Asia and China. Now, what does it tell us? It tells me, at least, that the equity analysts don't really trust us Aussie businessmen of taking leverage or understanding Asian business at all. That's what it tells me, at least. Well, if you want more research of this nature, there's a lot of numbers I can throw up. Just visit the AIBC website. You'll find a lot of good data. And if you remember, go to the member section. You'll find some absolutely incredible analysis by CBA available for all of us. Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Gunjan, for that analysis you guys did. Well, at the same time, there's opportunity out there, but no one accused India of being the easiest place in the world to do business with. No one accused that, right? And I think that's where we in AIBC come in. At the end of the day, to understand a nation of 100 tongues, as Mark Twain beautifully put in, and a nation where 2/3 of the electorate actually goes to vote in an election without any force at all, it has to be a complex place to do business in. I think that's where we in AIBC will prove very important to all of you who are keen to do business with India. I'm sure Shiva will talk about in some more detail on some of the great delegations we have leading to India in the early the next year. This year has been incredibly interesting at AIBC, like almost every year. We were honored with the presence of the Indian Finance Minister, who addressed a members' event with over 100 people attending to discuss Indian budget. At a more personal level, I was very happy to welcome Mr. S.P. Shukla, my old college alumni and senior, who is the president of Mahindra Aerospace, to address us members out here. But the two things in particular I really want to touch upon. Number one is, I think Shiba's election as national chair has been great. I think it's time we had a woman chairman to start with. Thank you, Shiba. It's good stuff. But I think more than just being a woman or not a woman or diversity and stuff like that, I think no one likes or no one cares more about Indo-Western trade than she does, with the possible exception of Dipen Rugani, the former chair. You still need to shave. The second, I think, is my pet project. You know, the India Watch newsletter. I was just talking to Casper about it. I said, you better read it. Last year at the AIA, I made a reference to commencing a thought paper on Indo-Western trade. I think, you know, we had about 1,500 copies downloaded from our website. It's not too bad for a first-timer. I got about 26 or 27 emails from people either telling me it's crap or telling me it's very good or giving me some ideas. All I told people who give me brickbats is saying that, please send me more. It just helps me improve so that the next newsletter is even better. And a lot more at AIBC's on the anvil, including a monthly boardroom event organized by the Professional Services chapter. This evening is a culmination of some very hard work from several folks. I think Samir Arora and Shiba Nankura to start with. Thank you, both of you. Samir, you just went from being a vice president to a wise man. The NSW committee, which manages us, is fantastic. They've been absolutely brilliant. Can I ask all of you to please stand up? Stuart, John, Paul, Rana, Raj, Caroline, Umra Miss, Samir, please. Rana Pala, Raj Nanda, great guys, thanks a lot. You guys have been fantastic, thank you. Nothing in AIBC works without Sam Dutt, who runs our secretariat. Sam, thank you. And for this event especially, I want to thank Naina Gill. Naina, she's been brilliant. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Naina. I also want to thank, and AIBC can't work. We are a member body. It's a volunteer-based organization. The only way for us to survive, thrive, and drive value for our members is with all the sponsorship and support we get from our companies and well-wishers. I especially want to thank CBA for being the national platinum sponsor for us. Ed and Gunjan, you have been great. Thank you, guys. I want to thank the Sydney Adventist for the major support for us this year. Thank you, Philip. I really look forward to hearing from you later in the evening. And Barbara, thank you for everything. Thanks to Emphasis, our silver sponsor, my old friend Abhijit. Yeah, it's because I'm old and Abhijit is a friend. That's fine. Especially after he has just agreed to write an epistle for my next newsletter. Good man, thank you. There are several corporate table sponsors whom I want to thank. Canara Bank, of course. We spoke about these people. I want to thank DFAT. I want to thank Weapon Industry, NSW, Fragoman, EMC, John, thank you, my friend. Multi Connections, Shiba, thank you. Cognizant, Pankesh and team, thanks guys. TCS, Darren, thank you. Share, Barbara again, thank you, Barbara. Grant Thornton, Rana, thank you. Bank of Baroda, Mr. Rangarajan and Pradeep Desai, great guys, thank you. Capgemini, Rekha, thank you. Sumo Global, Vishal, where are you, my friend? Good man, thank you. Friedman, Gopalan, Mitu. Good stuff. And Gagana, where are you hiding? The NSW chapter. Good show, guys. And I also want to thank Pawan Luthra and his incredible team at the Indian Link. They printed the India Watch newsletter in 48 hours for us. Thank you, guys. Good stuff. A special thank you to our silent auction partners, the Australia Cruise Group, ABS, Nanda Hobbs. That's a fantastic piece of work which Raj Nanda is so kindly offering to AIBC. Thank you, Raj. And Canara Bank from one great fast bowler. AIBC is a member-based organization. We encourage all members interested in actively contributing to AIBC to please contact us. There are membership forms available on most tables. If you're not a member, I suggest, I can beg, borrow, steal, whatever you want me to do, to become a member. I hope all of you have an enjoyable evening, and I look forward to talking to all of you over the course of the evening today. Thank you.